Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Did she say Justin's in home?
Yep. So she should be able to join from home.
Her computer was messed up.
Actually, I don't need that. I just need this.
And then he set up a separate profile for her, so she like put her on password in the box.
Which way?
She mentioned that.
Oh, hey, look, somebody's there. I admitted. Hey, Amanda, how are you?
Hello.
We're gonna get started in a few minutes here. Still waiting for people to file into the call. Got a few people here in person. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. So this is good because now everybody's on the call. You can chime in if you need to. So how is everyone finding the course so far? Are you able to follow what we're doing, or am I going too fast?
This is Amanda. I may have to come in to class next week
Okay.
because I feel like I'm.
We are not going to meet next week because of the 4th of July weekend.
Oh, okay.
So the week after next, feel free to come on in. And,
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And we're gonna switch up the format just a little bit. We're not gonna be doing as much slides because those aren't super helpful necessarily. So the slides, I mostly just wanted to convey some information about the software industry to start with, which may or may not have helped. So, hello, Sherika, welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I was just talking about the class. We are going to start going a little bit slower pace. We're going to take pauses and give you exercises to do during the class so you can sort of reinforce the concepts we're talking about and teaching. So we'll be doing that today. I think Gregory is coming and he might be teaching. So if I step out and he steps in, don't be alarmed. He's another one of our instructors. He's a very affable gentleman and will lead this class with gusto. All right.
I had a quick question really quickly. I know you said we were not meeting on next week. So should we still follow along and still do the exercises in free code camp?
Sure, yeah. That is a resource for you. You can go at your own pace. If you want to get done next week and you have the time, like if you want to do as much as you can of that, right? Those projects are going to look good on your resume and your portfolio. So I would highly recommend doing those whenever you have time. It helps reinforce the concepts. And the only thing I would say is that don't lose sight that you're going to be building stuff that you come up with or that someone else comes up with. So what we're going to do with this pivot to a slower paced style is we're going to get everybody hooked up with Git and we're going to start working on a project. I've got something in the works with the Drake House, we're going to look at creating a grocery inventory for their food pantry. That was something I have an email out that I'm going to follow up on tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Monday, next working day, right? And then we'll go from there once I have more details, and we'll give you tickets that you can do that will sort of emulate the process of working in a corporation, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
That's great. No, that's great. So we will be helping to build this, and everybody will have a part to do with it.
Yes, it'll be a real world application.
No,
You may be broken up into smaller teams because you don't want to have a too large team, because then communication can be difficult across the teams. So or across the team if it's a large team. So we'll work through that as we move forward.
And we'll be able to put this on our portfolio, or that we did a part of this. If we have if the part is big enough, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not something that it's something that will live probably longer than your tenure here at SoftGuild. So you'll be able to see, like, if you come back and teach, 2 or 3 years down the road, you'll be able to see, like, okay, this app has evolved since I last touched it, and you'll be able to contribute back to it as well. So what those features are, what the Drake House needs, by working with the Drake House, you're able to get real experience working on a software project while also helping the community. So that's sort of kind of SoftGuild's whole thing, is like, let's build software to help the community.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yep. One other thing, I did have a lead on a handful of apprenticeships with a company, and I'll pull up my email, see if I can find the name of the company, but it's a ServiceNow apprenticeship. So that was one of the software products that I was talking about that uses JavaScript and HTML and CSS. So let me see. This is with newapprenticeship.com. So I'm going to put that up here real quick. And your job is to help their website now. Okay, that's better. So this is a program that you can take. It's going to be different than SoftGuild, but it is more focused on a job. So they partner with recruiting companies and technology companies. So they have a job they want to interview for, and they're investing in candidates to apprentice into those roles. So you'll have a guaranteed interview at the end of this program, but it is more laser focused on the job you'd be apprenticing for. So if any of you are interested in that, please send me a Slack message, and I'll forward it to Matt, our contact at newapprenticeship.com. And I'll post this in the Slack channel in a second.
Do you know if the apprenticeship would be remote, or would it be someone local in the Atlanta area?
Say that again.
Would this apprenticeship or possible apprenticeship be remote, or would it be local in Atlanta?
So that's the thing is, I was talking with Matt, our contact. He says that a lot of companies are moving back towards the in-office model. So remote is not as likely with this program. And with SoftGuild, we're remote and on-site. So the hybrid model can sometimes work. And we'll teach you the skills to collaborate remotely as well. That's what I was kind of doing last week, is trying to show you, like, this is how teams collaborate remotely with Git. and I know that was super frustrating because I didn't tell you how to install it first, but I'm uploading the Thursday call I had. Sherika was on that call, and we walked through a couple of pull requests. So that flow is illustrated in that call, and you can review that video at your leisure. And then if you have any questions, again, one thing I also want to reiterate is the Slack channel has been kind of quiet throughout the week. So if you have any questions during the week, or if you even don't know what kind of questions to ask, just show us the code you're looking at, and say like, what does this mean? And then we can sort of go from there. So we're here to help during the week. We may not be able to do it, right then and there, but asynchronously we'll be able to update you on what we think about your question. Comments, concerns? Otherwise, we'll get started.
You're gonna upload that to the YouTube channel, that the call from Thursday?
Yes. Yeah, it's I actually started uploading it before this call started. So it should be up there in another 10 to 12 minutes.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Pretty sure everybody's a part of that when they join. Okay. I'm going to open a new tab and then hit F12. So now I have a clean console. We can let you in. All right. Okay, so this is the JavaScript console. To get to it, most browsers just need you to hit F12. So what I need you to do right now is open Firefox or Chrome or Edge, and then hit F12 to open up the console. Hello. Hello. So does everyone have their JavaScript console open? It should look something like this.
Would you press F12 on the Mac as well? Because I pressed it and nothing happened when I opened up Chrome.
Yes. So on the bottom left of your keyboard, there should be a key labeled FN. When you hold that and push F12, it should open up. Otherwise, I think it's Command-Shift-I. You can also open up the context menu over here and go to More Tools and go to Developer Tools. So yeah, Control-Shift-I or Command-Shift-I will also open it as well. And then, Raven, you were saying it's split screen. There should be some settings. Yeah, so all you have to do is go over to and then just do the full screen, not side of the extra window up front. Bam. Okay. Michelle, were you able to get it?
I am not. I tried the FN and then the F12. I tried you said Command Shift and I.
Yes. All at the same time.
Yeah, that didn't do that either.
Okay. Would you go ahead and share your screen for me?
Okay.
Should be at the bottom menu. There's a little rectangle with a arrow in the middle of it.
I have to open up my system preferences really quickly.
Okay. Makes sense. You may have to restart Chrome.
I am, and that's going to close me out. So I'm going to come out of that and then rejoin, because when I do that, it's going to close me out of everything.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
See you in a bit. Sharika is downloading Chrome.
What was that other thing you mentioned?
Yes. So there's a video that I've uploaded. I'll see if it's up. Yeah, I got the video uploaded now. So let me pause this, share this, copy the link. Cool. We won't be using Git today, so Michelle will join us again shortly. There she is. Excuse me, sorry. All right. Michelle, do you have Chrome by any chance? Oh yeah, you're in Chrome. Okay, good. So in the upper right corner of your Chrome window, there by your avatar, there's those little three dots. If you click those, you should be able to go to more tools. And then developer tools is there. So it's actually Option Command I on Mac. So for those of you who are on Mac, the shortcut is Option Command I. Now, if you pull that back up, you can also make that full screen. There's another little three dots by the gear. If you go to the far left on dock side, if you see that dock side option, there's that extra window dock side on the far left. Oh, yeah. It looks like two windows over top of each other. Cool. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the console in the upper part of your DevTools window. There's a tab called Console. You're going to click that, and that'll open up your JavaScript. Okay, Sharika, how are you doing?
It's almost finished.
Okay.
Let's see if I can.
Thank you so much. I love this so much better. You can see my screen. I love it. Are we going to be able to see your screen?
Yes, I'll share my screen when I'm ready to move forward.
Awesome. This is so much. I love this so much better already. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. I can't believe I didn't think of it to begin with. You know.
It is okay. You thought of it, so we're back.
Back on track. Okay, I'm gonna start sharing my screen. I think Sharika, are you almost there?
Yeah, it's about Chrome is about to open. Finally.
Okay.
So can I close that other tab that I opened before I open developer tools, or does that need to stay open while I have that developer tools open?
That needs to stay open while developer tools is open.
Got it.
Okay. All right, Sherika, have you been able to get your developer tools open? Oh, 1 more minute. Okay. Thank you. Were you able to get on the Wi-Fi yet? No. Okay, so open up your Wi-Fi. It's a Thrive member.
Should we have any other program open right now? Should we have Git open or anything else open right now?
No, not at the moment. We're not going to be working with Git right now. All right, I'm going to mute 1 second so I can give the password to Gregory. Okay, we are ready here. So let's go ahead and talk about variables. So variables in JavaScript and in any programming language, but let's focus on JavaScript, allow you to store data and use it later. Okay, so any kind of data can go in a variable. So if you want to have some words, here are some words. And then you can retrieve it later by typing some words, and here are some words.
Anybody can make that bigger? Because it was a road, no.
How's that?
Yeah, that's.
You can do numbers. Some numbers. Some number. Do many numbers as well, but.
What are you
Okay.
using right now? What's the console?
This is the developer tools. Most browsers will come with developer tools, and that's what this is. So this allows you to run JavaScript in the browser by just typing it in and hitting enter. And then it also shows you, it does some other things as well, but we'll not get into the weeds on that. We're just focused on the console today. Some other things you can do with variables, you can reassign their values. So if we want some number to all of a sudden be some words, we can do that. And so now some number and some words are now the same thing. If we want to reassign some words to be a number, we can do that as well.
Sorry, this stuff was already.
No, that's okay.
When I type in variables, some words, like nothing happens. It sounds like syntax error.
Did you use the var keyword?
Okay, so when you have a text item, quotation marks, that tells it that this is just a piece of text.
You know how to get back to this.
You push up on the arrow key. So for those of you who have ever played a Quake 3 engine game, you should be familiar with it because you entered cheat codes when you were playing it. That's how I got started. But yes, you can hit the up and down arrow keys to see your past commands. So going up will go to the previous command, and going down will go to the next command. Yep.
Great, if you want to do something again that you've just done.
Yep. Are there any questions about variables at the moment? You can put quotation marks around a number. So the question is, can you put quotation marks around a number? The answer is yes, you can. We'll get into arithmetic later on because you can do math on the computer. So if I do 2 plus 2 in here, it'll equal 4. But if I do 2 plus 2 in quotation marks, that's going to equal 22. Yeah. So you'll notice I put the type of the data in the variable name as well. I said some number and some words. There are types in JavaScript, but they're very loose, right? So you can add a number and a string together, and it'll just kind of figure it out. Yeah, it'll coerce it to a string. So when I say coercion, what that means is it's going to take a variable and turn it into another type. Yeah. So a computer, what we're doing on the screen here, the computer has no idea about, right? It's like it just understands ones and zeros. So a bunch of smart people came up with a way for ones and zeros to represent different forms of data. So you can have, if you have a character like the letter A, and then you have a string of characters like the quick brown fox jumped over the red dog or whatever. Lazy brown dog, that's it. Quick brown fox jumped over the lazy red dog. That's it, right? Brown dog. Yeah, lazy dog. Hey, Amanda.
Yeah, so in this console, you're just running code line by line. So it has some memory, but it's not like writing a document or a program. You can't go back and change those things. Now you can do something else. Will it let you redeclare a variable that's already been declared? You bars from there.
Nope. Oh, wait, maybe you can.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can.
It does remember, but it doesn't care.
It'll just zero it out and try again. Like it's it keeps its own internal state kind of thing. So the data types, don't worry about right now. You'll get into that as you're building an application. You'll see like, okay, I want somebody to enter a number here, and I want to make sure it's a number. So I have to do some checks to make sure it's a number. And if it's not a number, then I want to reject it and say, you need to enter a number here and not, a sentence. Does that make sense? Is everybody tracking on data types right now?
Yes, I understand. Are you in Firefox in dark mode?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure because everything looks the same except for mine is white. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yes. Yeah, I'm in dark mode because I hate sunlight and I'm a vampire. I don't hate the sunlight. I'm not a vampire.
I was laughing. I was just on mute.
Okay, so now what I want you to do, you should have your console open. If you don't, take some time, Go ahead and get it open. And I want you to create a variable called me, var me equals, and then I want you to put your name in a string. Okay? With quotes. When I say a string, I mean quote here, quote here. That's what is called as a string literal. And basically what that means is you're telling the computer, hey, this is a string, and you're not like building it from somewhere else. Anytime I say literal, it just means you wrote it down and gave it to the computer to start with. Okay, does everyone have their name in a variable called me? I am going to take silence as affirmation, so if you don't speak up.
I'm having
Going
issues
on.
with my laptop, so I'm following along.
Okay. Do you have your console open, Amanda? It
No.
should look. Okay. So what you want to do is open Chrome, or if you have, you should have a browser open. You're connected to Google Meet, so I'm assuming you have Chrome or Safari or Firefox or Edge open.
Yes.
Which one do you have open?
I have Chrome.
Okay. All right, cool. That looks great. So my next question is, did you see the quotes? So you have var me Michelle and you hit enter, right?
No.
Okay. So you should do something like this. You should do var me equals Jonathan. And it should say undefined afterwards.
Is this correct, what I'm showing on the screen?
No. So this is the error that Raven was running into. So around your name, you need to put double quotes. So like you're quoting somebody, you need to say at the start of your name, you'll have a quote, and at the end of your name, you'll have a quote. So you can either use single quotes or double quotes. It's generally good practice in JavaScript to use single. In our exercises today, it won't matter whether you use single quotes or double quotes. It's just a matter of, I take that back.
Oh, I'm trying to edit it, but it won't allow me to go back to the var me.
Go ahead and hit up.
Up.
On your arrow keys. It should bring it back down another line below.
Okay. It's not, and I'm on a Mac. Do I need to combine that with something else?
You can just type it again. This isn't like editing a text document. You're just entering a line and then submitting it to the computer, and it does things with it. And then you've got to either put it back in, or if you hit the up and down arrow keys, it should, like if you click into this box here and then you hit up and down, it should let you go between your previous commands.
Okay, so I got back undefined, but it's not red like before.
Okay, so type me and then hit enter. And then it should put your name to the console like this. You see how I typed me and it says Jonathan? So yours should say me, Michelle.
Correct. When I hit me, enter, Michelle popped up.
That's correct. Okay. Now what I want you to do is assign me to your birth year. So what year you were born. So now me should equal the year you were born.
Do we have to put the variable in front of that as well? Var me equal the year?
In this case, no, because what you are doing is you are reassigning the value. You are changing what me equals. If you wanted to create a new variable, so this is where I'm going to do a quick, I'm going to click resume. 1 second. Over here. Okay. So I am going to, can you all see my screen again?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code real quick and show you what it looks like in a file, just so you're kind of seeing and following. I don't know if this is going to help or hurt, but let's go. Okay. Oh boy. Back off. All right. So let's go var me equals Jonathan. And then I want me to equal 1992. So that's what it should look like is just take your birth year and then the variable name equals your birth year.
So whenever we do that, me equals whatever we put behind that, then that's going to come on that next line.
Yes. Whenever you hit enter, it'll show the output of the expression. So anything like if you do 2 plus 2, it'll tell you what that equals. If you do 2 plus 5, it'll tell you 7. If you do 9 plus 3, it'll be 12. If you do 9 minus 3, it'll be 6. If you do 10 times 10, it'll be 100. I can't get too complicated with my math, otherwise I'm gonna like show my ignorance. I do know how to do math, it just takes a little bit longer. So have y'all been able to do that? Assign me to your birth year?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a little different than yours.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's
Still,
let me pull this back up. So now I'm going to say me equals 1992. Bam.
What was that last one again? I feel like we got first class on screen.
Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
That's your code editor. That'll let you build files and applications and stuff like that.
Oh, I have just a question. Class. So, one of the classes that we, in style, CSS.
Yeah.
Didn't have to,
Yeah.
so how do I create that? Because like the classes helping, right? And for us, and it was just like.
Right. So you'll need to install a web server. So when you go to www.blank.com, that goes into the computer. That's all the file. And so when you just click on the file and put it on your desktop, it just gets that one file. So when you find like a reference center, we're going to try and go to your computer again over each out of the file system. So think about it this way. Okay, so you've got your computer here. you have a file here. That's going to open in your browser, right? So here's your browser. And that's going to open. And then say you have another file here. If you double click on that, it's going to try and go over HTTP, but you don't have a web server. So with a web server, you can serve files so that it can go and get more files. I just
Let's do the web server to start with, like just. I have let me research this for you, and I'll get you an answer on what's the web server to start with.
Okay.
'Cause I know a couple, but they're not easy to start with. Yeah, that's it.
Something I was wondering out.
Yeah, so Larissa had a good question. In Free Code Camp, if you're far enough along, they've started separating out the index HTML document and the styles.css document. We won't get into this today, but it's a good thing to think about. When you just double click on your index HTML file, you can view it, but any files that are referenced in the head are not going to be served up. So if you have a styles CSS file that you want to bundle with your index HTML, you can't just double click on the index HTML to view it. You have to actually serve it through a web server. So that's sort of how websites work. Normally is you'll go to a computer on the internet somewhere over the network, right? You'll say, hey, computer, give me some files, and it'll give you the files. But when you just double click on a file in your computer, it'll just say, hey, hard drive, give me that file, not, hey, computer, give me all your files, if that makes sense. So another confusing digression. Sorry about that. We're going to get back to this. Okay, so now that you've assigned this to a number, we're going to do some things to it. Arithmetic. Everybody knows addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You can do that on variables. So you can do me times 2, 3984. So 1992 times 2. And we can check it, I guess. I'd have to get out a pen and paper to check it manually, but we'll trust Google for now. A simpler one is 2 times 2. That's 4. Okay. So the times operator is this star. You can get to it by pushing shift and pushing 8. I think it's the same on Mac. Yeah, it's the same on Mac. Yeah, just like that. And then you can also do 2 divided by 2. That's 1. Divided by is just the /. And then addition obviously is just the plus sign. So you can do that by pushing shift and then hitting the key to the left of your backspace key that's got the plus and equals on it. So obviously we did 2 plus 2 earlier. And then 2 minus 2 is 0. So what I want you to do is take your me variable and I want you to add, subtract, multiply, and divide by 2 your me birth year. And then you can post it in the Google Meet chat. Post the answers to all 4 of those questions in the Google Meet chat.
You want like separate it or?
Yeah, just do it on a new line. So cool thing with Google Meet, I know Google doesn't like this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So if you don't want to send a message, but you want to put a new line in, you can say, hey, hello, and then push shift and enter, and it'll put a new line in. So you can put it all in, one. This is a new line, and then you hit enter, it'll send it. And that will work in the JavaScript console as well. If you want to create a new line, you can make a statement and then create a new line by hitting Shift Enter instead of Enter. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and then I'll do my numbers 3 times 2. Oh wait, addition first. Plus 2.
Does it matter with the spaces? I know when you did the division, they were right next to each other, but I think another one, I can't see your screen anymore. You did a space in between. Does it matter?
No. No, it does not. Good practice is generally putting a space between the two. So put a space, then another space after the operator. And the operator is the addition, multiplication, division, subtraction symbol that you use. So me minus 2, me times 2. That's a big number. I'm old. Which has nothing to do with it, but. E divided by 2, 996.
Oh, I don't think I did the subtraction. That was after divided with subtraction.
Yeah, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and it's supposed to be that me variable. I'm not interested in 2 times 2. I'm interested in your birth year times 2. This is actually like a low key demographic survey trying to get y'all's ages, which I realize is very rude to ask. I'm sorry. I won't actually run the reverse operation to get your age. No, in the Google Meet. Oh, you haven't joined yet. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can put it in Slack. You can Slack it to me. It doesn't matter. Just let me know which one is which.
Okay, so I must be missing something. So you did the times 2, our birthday times 2. What's the other one? I have that one.
Your birthday times 2, your birthday divided by 2, your birthday plus 2, and your birthday minus 2. So all of them should just use that me variable, right? So you do me plus 2, me minus 2, me times 2, and then me divided by 2. I'll be right back. It's Saturday.
That's a lot of life. I don't like the drinks for my clients makes. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right. So, Sherika, I see me times 2. Do you also have me plus 2, me minus 2, and me divided by 2? Oh, she left. Goodness. Didn't mean to call her out. She may have been trying to share something. So she comes back. Let's see. Michelle, how are you doing? Hey, Sherika. What happened?
I'm so sorry. I have no idea. The only thing I looked up, typing, and said you left a meeting.
Oh, goodness.
It was, oh my gosh. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I have all the me times and stuff over here. I'm just typing it into the.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry.
Michelle, how about yourself? Have you got your me times 2, me plus 2? I see your 2 times 2 and your 2 divided.
Yeah, now that I have it properly, I looked at Gregory's because I had like 2 here, mine is here. So now I'm just copy and pasting.
There you go. Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm having some difficulties.
Do you want to share your screen? Can work through it real quick.
I may have to try to log in on my other device.
Are you going to be coding on the device you're going to log off of? Because I can't see your screen if you're going to be on another device you're not coding with.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll be able to code on the other device?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. Yes. Amanda, have you logged in to your other device yet?
I'm working on that now.
Okay, please let us know when you're available and we'll work through it. We will work through it.
What was the short code to do the line breaks for Google Meet?
Shift enter. I can tell. So, Michelle, are you a WordPress developer?
I am.
Okay. You said short codes and you outed yourself.
I'm trying to do to where I can now modify themes the way I need to if they don't come,
That makes sense. I too would like to do that one of these days. But I know how, I just haven't put the two together yet. That's all. WordPress is a whole different beast.
It is. It really is. It really is.
All right, I'm gonna take 2 seconds to wash my hands. That was a delicious donut. By the way, if you aren't sold on coming,
We're missing donuts.
yes, yes, yes. So I guess we didn't make this clear. As part of being in person, you get coffee and some form of delicious treat when you come in person. So another incentive besides hands-on help is, coffee and donuts.
That's worth it.
I definitely enjoyed it. Amanda, you able to share your screen yet? Give it another 5 minutes and move on otherwise, just so we don't bog everyone
So
else down.
I'm not able.
Okay. All right. We will move forward then. All right, so now you can see the value of JavaScript variables because you can do math on them. And you can also create other variables that assign. Why does it keep doing that? I want that. I don't want that.
You have another update. That's trying to be helpful.
Yeah. Got it. Thanks. Okay. So now what are we doing? And this is where. So now we're going to show strings and what you can do with them.
Just a quick thing I want to add. It's just that you notice when you do like an E+2, it reports the result. But it doesn't change me.
Yep.
So a lot of people get caught on that because they're like, well, I did +2, but they didn't. You just told the computer, look in the box called me, take that number, and take the result of adding 2 to it. But it doesn't actually change what's inside the box.
Right. So if you want to change me, you would have to do me equals me plus 2. Now, me is 1994. But I want it to be 1992. That's my birthday. Birth year. So that's what Gregory makes a good point. He was saying that if you type me plus 2, it's not going to change the value that's stored inside me. So if you think of variables like little boxes, you can take a number, put it inside. You can push that number out by putting something new inside. And that's just kind of how you store data and use it later. We'll get to the using it later part now, but this is important to know how to store data and just manipulate it so you can sort of move it around the computer as you're working through these things. Okay, so now we're going to work on strings. I'm going to set me Barney equals Jonathan. That's me. I'm not sharing my screen. I need to do that. Sorry about that. If at any time I'm not sharing my screen, please pipe up and say, hey, share your screen. Just like that. Hey, share your screen. Hey. Okay, that's what I do with my son. He started going, ah, and I go, ah. We'll do that back and forth a little bit. Okay, so I've set the variable named me to my first name, Jonathan. And I want to put my last name on it. So what I'm going to do is create a variable called my last name. My last name is Ling. And now I want to put those two together. So what I'm going to do is do me plus my last name. And now it's Jonathan Ling, but it's all smooshed together. I want a space between those. So what I can do is do a space in quotes and then another plus sign, and it'll push it all together. It'll sort of what this is called in programming is called concatenation. You are appending lines of text to each other. So you're sort of stitching together words and stuff like that. So we can continue this exercise. We can say Jonathan Ling space is a software engineer at
Jonathan, didn't we already put var me equal our names? Do we have to do it again, or is this just?
Yes, yes. So if you want to follow along with this exercise, you will need to change me to your first name.
No. I'm saying we did that already earlier, in the code. So do we need to do that again for it to pick it up?
Yes. Yeah. So the variable value is saved, right? So when I say me equals Eduardo, it'll now say Eduardo Ling when I access me. Does that make sense?
No, I follow. I just wanted to know if I had to write that again because I could have swore we did var me equal our name earlier in
Yes.
our code. So I just wanted to make sure I have to do it again before adding my last name.
Right. But if you remember, in between that, we set it to your birth year and did all the math on it.
Oh, yes. So now we're reprogramming it back.
First,
Okay.
right.
Perfect.
So remember when I was saying you stick data in the box, and when you stick new data in the box, it pushes the old data out.
Oh, so every time we say var equal me, it replaces what it previously was?
Yes.
Got it.
Yep, that is correct.
We didn't know or people can be listening.
So this is where some JavaScript engines will tell you that the variable has already been declared. So what that means is if you do var me Jonathan and then you try to do var me equals 1992, in some cases, if you load the page, it'll say, hey, var me was already declared. So that's what this is on line 28, is a declaration. You're saying, this variable doesn't exist yet, so I'm going to make it, and then I'm going to assign it to Jonathan. So this is where you say, computer, give me a variable, name it me, set it equal to Jonathan. So once again, that syntax is computer, give me a variable. That's what this var keyword is. Name it me, the variable, name the variable me, set it equal to Jonathan. But if you do it again, you say computer, give me a variable, name it me, the computer's going to say, whoa, I only know about one of those. Woo-wee. Don't give me two of the same thing. Now, in Chrome, it's not complaining, but in the past, it used to complain saying, hey, this variable already exists. So that's sort of why I can do it interchangeably, where I can say, hey, var me equals this, and then var me equals that, and var me equals this, and me equals that. Say what?
Me last name.
Yes, so that's a different variable. So if I say, I can continue declaring new variables and say, hey, your birth name equals 1992.
I'm gonna try to read it with like B plus quotes.
Say what?
Like on the other screen, you have like B plus. Right? Are the quote exactly like Apple space? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you're adding new sections to put data in.
Can you go back to that main screen? I think that I have an error and I'm not sure why, because it came back as undefined when I went back to var me equal Michelle. And then I did var me last name equal Littles, but then I got an error. So I just want to check my code.
Cool. So when you say me Eduardo equals, sorry. Okay, so could you state your question again?
Are you speaking to me?
Yes.
Oh, so I did it. Now that I see it on here, I think I didn't do me last name. I did var me last name. That's why I got the error code. So I'm gonna do it again.
Is there a problem in here? Oh, okay. I was about to say, like, are we in trouble? The dog. He's a cutie too. Looks like a little beagle. So did I answer your question, Michelle?
I'm gonna share my screen because for some reason it's still coming up as an error code. It's not doing undefined anymore when I do var me equal Michelle.
Okay, well, let me see it. Okay, so if you'll look at your lines, you'll notice how this is where you need to put quotes around your name, because otherwise you're saying, you can do this. You can say var Michelle equals Jonathan. So now my name equals you. So if I said var, you said me equals Michelle, now me is Jonathan. So what you did is you told JavaScript, hey, set var me, or sorry, set var me last name equal to the variable stored in littles, not the string littles. So when you put, so yeah, go var me last name. Right, there you go. So, and then me last name, if you go down, if you hit the down arrow keys, you can go down to the bottom one and then hit enter, and that'll just fill it in for you. And then you can just add the quotes around it by clicking into the box, and yep. And then on the other end, you can do that, hit enter. And then you can do the me plus me last name, and that'll put Michelle Littles together, but with no space. You got to do the.
Okay. Are you? Can you go back to your screen, please?
Yeah, 1 second. Let's share this.
I have a quick question. Like when I put my name in, it's like all together, but it's not spaced. How do I get it to space?
You're talking about when you do me plus me last name, like this?
Yes.
It looked like that, right?
Yes.
So all you have to do is add a space between it. And to do that, you just create a new string in between and add it to the middle.
To the middle. Okay.
Like that. And you can keep adding stuff too. You can say likes Cruller donuts a lot. Like maybe way too much. But you'll notice it just takes this. You see the string on the end, the quotes. It doesn't store that anywhere. It just uses it right then. So what you can do if you want to, tell other people how much you love Cruller donuts, or say how much other people love Cruller donuts. Like, Gregory, do you like Crullers? Do you like them way too much?
I mean, probably.
So you'd say this is an untrue statement. But you see what I did there is I set the end string to the likes donuts variable and then kind of pushed them together. So you can sort of do this with any string, and you can do it with any number too. But when you're pushing a number onto a string by using the plus sign, it'll just push it on as a string. So it won't actually add the numbers together. Ooh, I didn't talk about parentheses. So for those of you who remember your algebra, there's a order of operations that I learned as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. PEMDAS. And what that means is that parentheses are evaluated first. So you have to remember in algebra, you got to clear your parentheses. And then you do exponents like square roots. And then you do multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So when I say like, so here's an example. Let's do 2 plus 2 minus 50. That's negative 46, but that is not what you would normally think, right? Because you're thinking like, okay, I have 4 minus 50. Technically, that is 46, but I've swapped the 50 minus, right? So instead of going 50 minus 4, which is what you'd expect, you know, when you're saying like, have 50, take away 4. That's not exactly what I wrote there, I understand, but if I did 50 minus 2 plus 2, you would get 50. And that doesn't make a lot of sense. So 50 minus 4, you would expect that to be 46, right? So to clear that, you put parentheses around 2 plus 2, and now it's 46. So what parentheses can do is to say, do this first. And this can get kind of confusing because then you can have like, well, what if I want to do like 4 minus 2 in here and say like, okay, well, divide the result by that. Somehow it's taking away 3. 2 plus 2 equals 4. So 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 50 minus 2 should be 48.
Order of operation,
Did I do it wrong?
2 divided by, but.
Oh, right. So, goodness, it shot me in the foot. So as you can see, it can get very complicated if you want to do multiple things like first. So just be aware of that as you're doing this stuff and working through things. You can use parentheses to get things to happen first. And Chrome and Visual Studio Code have what's called bracket colorizers. So you notice how it's green? It'll show you which one belongs with which one as you move through the parentheses. So if you have multiple nested parentheses, it'll show you where the start and stop is. But anyway, enough about that digression. What I wanted to show with this is what you can do in this case is you can say Gregory Seed's full name plus likes donuts. Sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
I'm not sure what went wrong. I'm gonna show my screen, but something happened with my Michelle full name. I tried to do likes WordPress. I'm not sure what went wrong. First, I did it with the quotations, and then I did it with just me plus last name, and it did not quite go right.
Okay, so this is where your Michelle Little's full name, I'm not seeing where you defined that. So did you do var Michelle Little's full name? Let me show you. So see where I did var Gregory Seed's full name? So you got to declare your variable, right? You telling the computer, hey, give me a variable, computer, call it this name, and then you can set it equal to something.
So I would do var Michelle Little's equal full name.
No. So what you're doing there is not going to work because the computer doesn't understand. Let me illustrate. So if I do var Jonathan Ling, it says I wasn't expecting this. Let me resume. Let me resume. You see how this is purple and this is blue? So what the computer expects is for you to say one single word, right? So it's not like multiple words pushed together. It's not multiple words separated by spaces. If you want to do spaces, you have to join it with a underbar like that, because otherwise the computer's not going to know, like, hey, what is this Ling thing? You're saying, hey, computer, give me var, name it Jonathan. Here's Ling. I don't know what this is, kind of hanging out here, but there it is. And the computer doesn't know what to do with that. That's where you see like syntax error. So syntax error just means like it's not quite formatted right for the computer to understand. So when you're creating a variable, you just want it to be one word, and then you can assign it to a variable. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Well, so I would need to do var Michelle underscore Littles equal Michelle Littles. Is that how I would get to do the full name so I can replicate the exercise you just did?
Yeah. You'll need to make sure you put quotes around the right-hand side of the equal sign, right? So this is where we kind of separate left-hand side from right-hand side. So if you look on the left, this is what the computer sees, and then this is the data that we want to put into the computer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so to replicate the exercise, you just do var Michelle Littles like that with a underbar between the two. And then you would put it in quotes, Michelle Littles here. Is everyone tracking so far? I know that digression around parentheses kind of threw everyone for a loop. What I meant to do with that.
I follow so far. Can you scroll up so I can see the likes donuts so I can try to do that one?
And if you would take a screenshot so we can continue. Oh, you do?
When you do, can you give us an example of like what this is used for?
Yeah, sure.
Or it's like, whether it's numbers or like in your
Go ahead. When you open up Facebook and you see your name at the top,
okay.
That's probably not a good example because it goes to a database.
Well, it goes to a database, but it's probably populating a variable from that database.
Right.
So it's a good point, but if you go to a really simple, web page, well, because a lot of this, like directly doing this in JavaScript is not the way you do it so much anymore. But in principle, these variables, especially the concatenation, are used anytime where there's dynamic data in the page. So anytime you see a username, anytime you see modern e-commerce works differently, but old-fashioned when it said, your total for the 5 items of your cart is $17, it added up the cost variables for each of those items. And
yeah, so here's a good example. Let's talk about, let's say we're talking about a grocery inventory for the Drake house. So let's say var grocery inventory equals, let's say we have apples, grapes, bananas. How do you spell bananas? B-A-N-A-N-A-S. So we have apples, grapes, and bananas in the grocery inventory. And I wouldn't structure it this way. We'll get into different data structures because you can access data in like so everyone's familiar with Microsoft Excel, right? Okay, so in JavaScript, there's something similar called JSON, which allows you to look up values in rows and columns kind of thing. It's a little more complicated than that and also a little less complicated, but basically you'll have like a line that has like, okay, how many apples do I have? So right now I just say I have some number of apples, grapes, and bananas. If I wanted to add, you know, like I have 4 apples. Oh, stop inserting. Oh my goodness. Apples. I have 4 apples. I have 999 grapes. Man, grapes are small. And then like 15 bananas. And these are fresh today, right? So there's your grocery inventory. That gets saved somewhere, and then we pull it back out and we update it, right? So now I have apples times 3 because somebody took an apple, grapes times 950, and then bananas times 14. But this is really tedious, right? So what you would want to do probably is say, okay, how many apples do I have? So var apples equals 15. Actually, it was 3. So I have 3 apples. Var grapes equals 950. Var bananas equals 14. Then I can concatenate them all together and say, okay, grocery inventory equals apples times, how many do we have? We have apples number. So you add apples to it. And you can take grapes, take an X, then you add grapes to it. And you can take bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S. And then you add bananas. So now grocery inventory, whoops, looks a little janky. So what I need to do is do a space at the beginning of these, and that should look a little better. Yeah, so now we have the grocery inventory updated. So now whenever we update apples, let's say apples, somebody takes an apple, apples equals apples minus 1. And then we can check the grocery inventory. And now it's apples equals 2. So as a real world example, does that kind of make sense? You can also, we'll get into this later, but you can have it dynamically updating so that whenever someone changes apples, you don't have to do, so let's do an example. Let's say apples equals, what is it? Apples equals apples minus 1. So now we've ticked apples down by 1. So now there should just be 1 apple, right? Let's check the grocery inventory. It still says apples times 2. That's because we haven't reset the grocery inventory variable. Now that we've reset it, we can look at the grocery inventory and see it's been updated. Are there any questions about that? Let's see if I can copy. Can I export this log? If I can export this log, I'll put it out there. Oh yeah, here we go. Just Is that saving? Hello, there it is. Okay, are there any questions? Does that kind of make sense? I know it's kind of a lot, but this is sort of what you would want to be doing to update your grocery inventory, is have separate variables for the amount of what you have versus the name of what you have.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. Are we going to? Do we go to 11:30 or 11? Okay, got it. I think we're almost through. We just have one more. So, does everyone feel comfortable pushing strings together like that, concatenating them together?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So we can break this even further down, right? So we can say Apple's name equals apples.
Maybe
Yeah. And then you'd have our apples count equals, what are we at? 1 apple. This is really neat. This is like a multi-line editor. I can do multiple lines before I run it. And then I can say var grapes name and so on and so forth. Now, normally you wouldn't just write in a code application, you wouldn't just write like, okay, I'm going to put grapes in here and it's going to be that way for the entire application. Because then you'd have to change it. You'd have to redeploy your website. You'd have to go through all that rigmarole. So what we usually do in web development is we put it in a server, a database server. And that way we can change the content in the database server, right? So Michelle, you'll be familiar with the database in WordPress, or at least have a concept of it. When you like change the content of a post in WordPress, it will change what gets shown to folks on the website. So that's what that's doing, is that's saving your changes in the editor, right? So whenever you go to Facebook and you write a post, that's taking that stuff you've written down and saving it to a database somewhere. And then when you want to see it again, it'll go say to the database, hey, give me that post that Sherika or Amanda or Michelle made, and then spit it back to the page for me so that I can look at it and see what I wrote down. You can do the same thing just on your own. You can also save it to like a file or something. It really doesn't matter where the data is stored. It just matters how you get it. So normally you'd write some sort of code to go and fetch data from somewhere. And that's sort of where like APIs come in. I know Michelle was talking about APIs at some point in an email. That's where you go say to a computer somewhere on the internet, usually defined by a web address, you'll say, hey, give me some data back. And it'll give you some data back if you're authorized to get that data. Var bananas name. Yes. I'm gonna have that song stuck in my head now. Sorry about that. 950. And now you can log to the console. And one thing I haven't been doing throughout this is anytime you want something to show in the console, you can just write console.log. And so if I want to show the inventory, I can go Apple's name plus X plus Apple's count plus grapes name plus X plus grapes count plus bananas name plus bananas count. And we're working in a what's called a REPL, which is read, evaluate, print, loop. So this is why I have to write it out each time if I want to get it. And you'll notice I forgot the spaces. So I'll put the spaces in at the end of, well, since I know the order anyway. Well, this is going to look weird. There we go. Say what? Oh, I forgot it. Yeah. Thank you. So we'll put the X there and then hit plus there, and we'll run this. And now we'll have the X. And in a project, you just write this once. You wouldn't have to keep typing this out. Once it's there, it just runs, right? So any data comes from outside sources, fills in the variables, and then flows to the web page.
Probably make a nice function format.
We'll go over functions later. Gregory was talking about functions and how you can group code together and then call it. That's a, I think 2 weeks from now topic. We're going to go over loops and arrays next week, I think, which would be a good jumping off point for data structures. Okay, we're gonna briefly go over const and let, which are other keywords for declaring a variable. There's a big difference between var, const, and let in JavaScript. So let me show you what I mean. So you remember how we were reassigning everything? So right now I can say, I want to go back. I want to go back to this. Yeah. So let's say grapes equals 400. So now grapes is no longer 950, it's 400. But if I defined a new variable called grapes the second and set it to 950, right? So say we have multiple places using this grocery inventory app for food pantry management. We'll have like a second variable that we use. And generally, you probably wouldn't have a second variable. You just hit a different side of the database. But let's just for the sake of argument, we create another grapes the second, right? So this is for, instead of the Drake House, let's say this is for North Fulton Community Charities or something like that. We say grapes the second. So now we want to update grapes the second. So let's say at North Fulton Community Charities, somebody takes like 400 grapes. So now it's grapes the second, minus 400 grapes. We're going to get an error which says you cannot reassign to const. So const means that the value you assign to it is one and done. You can access it, you cannot reassign it. It's short for constant. It means it is a variable that can't change. So it's really not a variable, it's what's called a constant. It's something you can read from, but you can't write to. And the reason why you do that is if you have an important piece of data that you don't want any of your program code to change. That's when you'd set a constant variable. The difference is that later on we'll learn about JSON. You can change some of the values in a data structure, but you can't reassign the constant. So here's what I mean. Let's say you have const example code. Let's say 450. So this is a string. And we can change the content of the string. We can't really. This is a bad example. But if you were to say like, okay, I'm going to change my character set so that the F looks like it does in a different language, right? So if I change it to Russian character set, actually this is a better example. this is not going to work because I can't reassign it. Example code 2 equals Russian language character set. So if I change the character set to a Russian character set, that might look different. So we've technically changed the content of the string, but what's the same is that in memory it hasn't changed, right? It's still referring to that set of data in memory. And this is useful for when you want to save a piece of data and access it later and not worry about your program changing it later on. The other thing you should remember for interviews and such is that a const variable is block scoped. And what that means is if you put a const between a pair of brackets like this, some variable equals foo, and then you do var some variable equals var, what's going to happen is this is going to fail because it's going to say some variable already exists. Missing equals in constant declaration. I don't know what that means.
What was it called again? I'm sorry.
Say what?
What was it called?
Const. C-O-N-S-T. That's a constant. Equals in constant declaration. So some variable. So you'll notice that some variable equals bar because the some variable inside the block doesn't get accessed. So let me illustrate better with a console.log. Let's do console.log some variable. Some variable is now it's set it there. So what this is going to do is tell us what the value of some variable is as we're stepping through the code. So what I expect to happen is it's going to log some variable is, and then it's going to log the value of some variable inside the block. Then it's going to log now some var is, and then it's going to log the variable or the value of some variable outside the block. So some variable is foo, now some var is bar. So you'll notice we declared the variable in two separate places. If I take away the block, what's going to happen is we're going to get an error that says I can't reassign a variable that already exists to a constant. Redeclaration of const some variable. So what happens here, this is something very unique to JavaScript, is this will actually get moved automatically to the top. JavaScript does that with any var keyword. If you don't want that, you use const every time. Oh, right. So now we have to change the name because, oh no, yeah, okay, never mind. Can you delete a variable declaration? Gregory, help me out. So some variable is foo, now some foo is, var is foo, right? Because we took out the variable. But anytime you have a var anywhere, it's going to go to the top of your scope. What that means is the blocks, right? So if it goes to the top of it'll go to the top of a function. It'll go to the top of a file. If you have a file and you put var at the very bottom of the file, JavaScript automatically hoists that to the top of the file. So it's a little confusing. Generally speaking, you're going to use const and let. So let is the other version of this. So let's say some variable 3 equals was. So some variable 3 is like a constant. It is block scoped. So actually, let me pull up the example I had before. And by pull up, I mean just copy and paste. So instead of const some ooh, hang on. I want to copy this. Copy message. So we're going to change this some variable to let, some variable let. And this should be the same thing. The difference is we can reassign it inside the block. Whoops. So you'll notice that it said some variable is bar. Now some var is bar. That's because we didn't change the, let's run this again. This time with the correct variable. Do you see what I did wrong? Inside the console.log, I had some variable instead of some variable let. Okay, so now it says some variable is foo. Now some var is bar. We'll come in here and we'll say some variable let equals bar. And now we'll say console.log. Now some var is reassigned. What it is. What is it? What is the value? Okay. And then we'll copy this line, come down here. Oh. Sorry, I hit enter instead of shift enter. Okay, so now what we expect to happen is we're going to declare some variable let, right? And then we're going to say console.log some variable is, and then we'll log out the value. Then we'll change some variable let, and then we'll log out the value again. Then we'll come outside of the block, and then we'll log the variable that we've got outside the block. So you'll see some variable is foo. Now some var is reassigned. What is the value? It's bar. And then at the bottom, now some var is bar. So you'll see these brackets, these mustache braces, because it kind of looks like a mustache turned sideways. You'll see these curly brackets, mustache braces. These define a block in JavaScript. And a block is just a unit of code that runs independently of other blocks of code. You can sort of separate your code logically that way by putting it in brackets. There's also functions, which we'll go over later, that you can then kind of reuse blocks of code over and over again. That was kind of my last exercise. That was a doozy, I know. We got kind of advanced. Does anybody have any questions? I'm sure I breezed too fast through this, but. Silence means you got it.
Any questions on, like, anybody need help with anything in free code camp?
Yeah, how's everybody doing on free code camp? Okay.
I mean, I think I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't see anything wrong, but.
Yeah, they can be picky sometimes. How about online? Is anybody still doing free code camp?
I am. I have a little bit to catch up on.
That's fine. Yeah. Again, those certifications are going to help. Really building projects is just kind of. Go ahead, Sharika.
No, I said I was still working on Free Code Camp as well.
Good. Again, those tutorials are really helpful in getting concepts down and reps in, like learning how to type everything out and stuff like that, getting everything in the right order. But building projects is really going to help click those neurons together to sort of like open up your world to be like, oh, this is how all software is made. And then you'll realize it's kind of, I don't know, as you grow into this, you'll start seeing more and more how you can do some of the things that, like some of the software you use that's really advanced, like Google Meet. You'll start seeing like, oh, I wonder, or why don't they do it this way? Or like, and as you start asking those questions and getting answers from folks, that's really going to help build your knowledge towards being a better software developer, and learning more and more as you go. Are there any questions about anything we've covered today? Again, we covered like variables, how to declare one, the different data types like numbers and strings, and how you can push them together or add them together or operate on them, with like plus, minus, divide. What's the other one? Multiply. That's the one. And we did a little bit about string concatenation, and then we did some block scoping, right? So you'll notice just one thing to keep in your mind as you're going through this is use const and let keywords over var in most of your projects, right? There are some cases where you might want to use var, but generally it's out of date, and most JavaScript guides and tutorials will recommend you use let and const instead of var. Let is a reassignable const. So if you remember, I illustrated hoisting. So see how this var variable sum let is down here? JavaScript automatically, kind of in a not going to ask for your permission kind of way, will lift it all the way up here every time. Any var declaration will always go to the top of the block. And I believe it goes all the way to the top of the file too, right? Yeah, so it's always going to go to the top of your file, all your var declarations. So var is kind of like an outdated way of declaring a variable. I started with it because you should know when you see it that it's to declare a variable, but it behaves kind of badly, and so we don't use it anymore in the web development world. So don't be alarmed when you see var. Just change it to a const if you can. If it needs to be reassigned, change it to a let. So that's the difference between constant and let. Const and let are variable declarations. One can't be changed, the other one can. Let can be changed, const cannot be changed.
Or I'm
In simple documents like we can do it, they work very.
Yes, yeah, but the difference is this isn't going to move.
yeah.
So if you put it here, it'll behave as you expect, right? So if you declare it after you set the value, it's not going to work. But if you move it up here, it'll work again. Well, sort of. I didn't. Oh, yeah. You gotta move it down too. There we go. It's working again. So you can't access a let variable before it's declared. With var, let's do some undeclared variable. That'll say reference error. It's not defined. But in code, let's log out some undeclared variable. Some undeclared variable. Oh, I have to spell console right. It'll say it's not defined. So this is different than how it was in the past. Now browsers are actually saying, hey, this doesn't exist. Before it would just say undefined like this. So the value would be undefined. So when you concatenate things together. Let's say some var is some undeclared variable. Oh, come on, you're not going to play nice with me? It'll error out. In the past, what it would do is it would look in this undeclared variable, find undefined, and then do that. So now we have a little more protection. Does that make sense? Going once, going twice. Going thrice.
So I had a quick question. So everything that we are doing right now, is this, will we take this code and then put it into something else? What is the front end of what we're doing looks like right now? All these exercises that we just did.
You haven't put it in a front end yet. We're not at that point yet. So what you're saying is, how does this get to the web page, right?
Correct.
That's something we are going to get to in later lectures. It's not really an advanced concept, but you have to be familiar with all the various operations that JavaScript has, as well as JSON. JSON and the document object model are very closely interrelated. So let me go ahead and show you what the HTML document looks like, okay? So when I type document, what this is referring to is the web page. And there's a ton of properties that make up a web page. And when I say properties, I mean these key value pairs. You see like child element count, :1. What that means is document.child element count equals 1. So let's document, let's do child element count. See how that's kind of like a variable? But I used a dot to go to the next property. And this is where we're going to get advanced pretty quickly with this. And you gotta, that's why I kind of wanted to go over variables before we did all that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I was just trying to put the two together in my head, and I can wait until later. But what we're doing right now is going to go into something. It's going to.
Yes, we're not just lollygagging in the console. This is just to get you familiar with JavaScript. I understand that's what I was trying to do the first class, is like, let's make a web page and put it up on GitHub pages. So now it is up on GitHub pages. So that first class we did. GitHub.
You shared that with us in Slack, right? You shared that with us so we can all work on that file in Slack.
Yes. It's on GitHub. So let me pull this up. So if you look, and this is something Sherika did on Thursday night when we had the Git overview, and I've got the video uploaded now. I'll post it in Slack when we're done here. But Sherika put her username on here via pull request. She was at her house. I was at my house. We got on a Google Meet call, and we put it up on the web together. So you too can add your username to here if you follow that video from Thursday. And I'll add everybody to the GitHub organization so you can like put your username up there, and you can like start seeing how to put things on the web. And if you follow the processes in that video, you can add whatever feature you want to this web page. Just don't put passwords or anything in the file. It happens often enough to very experienced web developers that I feel okay saying that.
So do we need to be added? You were saying you want to add us to it. Do we need to be added there before we can access the file?
No, you can copy and paste the contents of the file, but if you want to edit the file and then push it up, you'll have to follow the tutorial that I put up on YouTube. And I'll put that in Slack right now. I think I did already, didn't I?
You did. You did it last week.
No, this is the supplemental one we did on Thursday. Back here. video to go over Git from the beginning. All right, I'm posting this in Slack. You should get it. It's just a YouTube video to go over Git and how we push this up to the web, because this is the output of the file, right? That's what the page looks like. But if you go to class notes, this is what the page looks like when you're looking at the file. Let me go ahead and bring it down a little bit. This is the index.html file that has all of the, like, here's the CSS, here's the HTML, and then here's the JavaScript. So everything that happens on the GitHub IO page so these class notes, this class notes page, everything that constitutes this web page is created by this file. So you can change things around. Like if you don't like the color of these, you can change the color in here by going into this P selector and changing the color from burly wood to something else. That video that I posted in Slack will go over how you make that change show up here. Okay, we are over time. I just wanted to share with y'all, tomorrow, Gregory, Caroline, and I will be at Christ Fellowship Church at Roswell North Elementary. If you guys want a break, we have some kids classes for kids to learn a little bit about the Bible while adults are in the service. I could listen to the sermon and just kind of relax and take a break. We have coffee and refreshments. It's just kind of a nice place to get away if you're interested. And that's all I'll say about that. Thank you all for joining. Say what?
What time is it?
10 o'clock, 10 a.m. Sorry, that is an important piece of information. 10 a.m., Roswell North Elementary. You can Google the address. I'm not sure of the address, but it's just, you turn right on what's the road? Woodstock Road, right. So you go Crossville 92 from 400 over to Woodstock Road. You turn left on Woodstock Road. It'll be 1.5 miles down on the left, just a little bit past Fellowship Bible Church. And we'd love to see any of y'all who want to come there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
I just want to say really quickly, I love this new format. It works so much better. I feel so much more confident with what I'm doing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely we'll move forward with this in the future. And I'll get this recording uploaded so you can go back and review steps as well. Thanks all.
Thank you.